Now it's time for Desktop Discussions.
Hey folks, Sir Charles Carey here, and I'm going to keep it real with you. And I'll also say that there's probably a lot more that can be said on this topic. So, fellas or men that are watching this, trust and believe, I'm not going against any kind of man code, and I'm not going against what it is to be a man, but I do know that men catch a bad rap, and sometimes we simply deserve it. But there are a lot of times when we simply don't. That's one thing. And if those of you that are like to learn and want to document stuff, go ahead and get your pen and paper, because I'm hoping that there will be a lot of takeaways from this, because the truth of the matter is we're all subject to some of the same things. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Some of us do the same things because we're human beings, okay? And I think that sometimes, because of our negative experiences, we have expectations on the other gender. And times have changed, and you can't hold someone to a standard that's simply convenient for you. So let's just jump into it, okay? I like to tell it like it is. People say men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and I understand. Simply put, men and women operate from a different psyche, from a different emotional status for the most part. Now, here's the rub. The rub is that we're still human beings, and some men, just like some women, we have more of the feminine gene, and some have more of the masculine gene. I'm talking about the men. Some men have more of a softer nature, and some women have more of a harder nature. Sometimes that's because that's how they are made, how they were born, and sometimes that's how life has beat them up. And because of life's beating and their experiences, they've hardened or they've softened. And when it comes to the relationship or the opinion of the other gender, we think that society has written this script, and that's simply just the way it's supposed to be. And nothing can be further from the truth. You can't typecast an entire gender based on your own opinion, based on what society says it's supposed to be, or what it has been known to be, because there are always exceptions. Now, a man's instincts as an individual is to do things a certain way. If you don't have a family and you're walking through life to, get to the next level, meaning you're gone through school and you're a young man and you're going into the work industry and you're trying to earn your living, your thoughts, responsibilities, they're slightly different. But when you are in a relationship, your instincts change because of the relationship, the man-woman relationship, or the family dynamic. And again, you cannot, talking generally speaking, say that a man is supposed to X, Y, Z because that's what your daddy did. And even the same applies with women. Although right now we're not talking about women. I just referenced that simply because some people cannot hear a message that focuses on one thing, and you got to give the balance by referencing the other thing. You cannot generalize a man's behavior because he's in a family dynamic. And why you can is because, again, times have changed and society has changed. Some things will remain the same, but not everything up and down the scale or on your piece of paper or whatever it is that you use to create as your guide or as your criteria for what a spouse is supposed to be. And if you're looking for a spouse to be one specific way, you may find yourself in trouble, because all people are not made up based on your list or my list. We have to learn to take the good and the bad. We have to learn to compromise, and what you can't deal with, you toss between the two of you if it's a family dynamic. And if it's not, then it really does not matter. But the problems normally happen in a family dynamic or in the dynamic of a relationship. You know, again, there are exceptions for everything that we deal with in life. And one exception in particular is when a person is dependent upon a substance, alcohol, or they have a mental disorder. You cannot expect a person who is dependent on any substance or has a mental health challenge to act the way you think they're categorically supposed to act because it's your preference. Because they are normally not capable if they're using drugs or alcohol in a habitual manner, or if they have a bipolar or a mental health crisis, or they're challenged in those ways. It's really very difficult for people with those types of challenges to say, okay, society expects me to be this way or that way, or my family or spouse expects me to be this way or that way. I'll do just that very thing. Well, the reason why you cannot expect that is because they are not their quote unquote normal selves. They don't have the additional baggage or challenges of being under a problem or being induced or seduced or impacted by a problem called mental health or a substance abuse, which is also part of the mental health crisis. It's just not likely. They may do one thing, they may do two things, they may do some things properly sometimes, but on a regular basis, it's not likely to happen. And it's unfair to expect a person who does not have control of their faculties to behave in a way that they are not capable of being. They're not capable of controlling or behaving in a manner that's productive when there's something else going on in their lives that simply prevents them from doing the responsible thing, from thinking maybe in a rational manner. It does not work that way, folks. Even with people who have been incarcerated, when they come home, you figure, well, he's not in jail now. She's not in jail now. It does not matter. People have to adjust to society and to life. And once they have adjusted, then they can try to assimilate or try to conform so that they do things within reason, within the boundaries of how society operates. But many of us, because we're damaged or because we are spoiled or we want what we want, we are expecting things to work a certain way. So what is the problem with men? Well, these are all the problems with men. We are not robots, and society's depiction from the 40s, 50s, or beyond, or prior to, that's just not realistic as far as behavior. Again, you know, men and women alike have some of the same problems or issues or challenges. Choose the word that makes you feel more comfortable. But we have to stop blaming men for being a certain way if they have certain problems. You cannot expect a man or a woman, again, I'm making a reference, to be on a team if they're not conditioned. Now, you put them on the team, but they won't perform if they're not conditioned. So that means they have to be conditioned to perform in a team dynamic. It's the same thing with a one-on-one relationship or in a family dynamic. They have to be prepared. They have to know what's expected. They have to have the training, life training, common sense, sensitivity, be empathetic, sympathetic sometimes, understand these various things. And they're not going to always get it right. And if they don't get it right, to condemn them is not only unfair, it's unrealistic. And you're really pressuring this man or this person to be a way that they are not capable of being, and then you're getting mad at them because they're not capable. Now, I don't know what you think or where you come from or what your mindset is, but it's just not fair. It's not realistic. And again, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. You know, a man is not normally designed to just go along to get along. A man is, how would I say it? A man is normally going to be the protector or try to be the protector. He's going to try to be the one that has more of a structured outlook in certain ways. Now, women may be more organized in certain ways, but men have a certain structure about them. Now, guess what? All men do not have it. But just generally speaking, that's how men do things in a quote unquote structured way. But that's why, and that's where compromise comes in, because we're not cookie cutters. And we have to understand that in life, you have to inspect what you expect, as the saying goes, especially in the beginning. And we know in the beginning of relationships, before there is a family dynamic, things are normally good. And then as you get to know the person and you get used to the person, you discover other things that you really may not like or prefer. And when you discover these things, you sort of develop a disdain for some of these things that a person, and some of their ways, their behaviors. So you have to understand that men are not cookie cutters. That's just not the way we are. You know, we don't normally just go along to get along. Now, if you have two people that are pretty much the same, we're going to obviously butt heads. Now, in many cases, men are expected to be understanding. Everyone in a family dynamic should be forthcoming, but we're all human beings. So we're not going to necessarily behave that way. We're just not. Because we have our own preferences and interests and opinions. And because of that, that's the thing that makes us different. And because you're different, you don't necessarily check with another person to see if your preferences are okay with them. No, you cater to your own preferences and opinions. But when the two personalities clash, that's when the crap hits the fan. So we have to learn how to understand one another. And again, all people, I know I'm maybe an exception somewhat, but all people, especially men, are not communicators. I'm not saying that men don't communicate. I'm not saying that men cannot communicate. Women talk normally more than men. I know that I'm an exception, not just because I'm a speaker and the creative type, but boy, it's sometimes rough saying these things because I know people who draw their own opinions and they want to shoot the messenger. But at the end of the day, everyone does not know how to communicate effectively with sensitive issues or sensitive concerns. And, you have to really realize that, wow, if you want someone to respond to you, how you engage them, how you express your energy is going to make a difference on how they're able, capable, or even desiring to be capable of expressing back their energy to you. You want a response? Well, respond in a way that you would want someone to respond to you. If you jump down someone's throat, well, 9 times out of 10, they may feel like doing the same thing to you. And then you can't pull oh, I'm the weaker vessel. I'm a woman. Yeah, but you can't and should not initiate negativity if you don't want to receive negativity. So the respect factor goes a long way. Now, it's true. Sometimes we have to learn that when we hear something abrasive, not to react right away. But remember what I said earlier, we're all wired differently. And because we're all wired differently, my trauma might show you some things that you didn't expect. So you have to be respectful of me like you want me to be respectful of you. Um, and at the end of the day, even though I'm talking about the problem with men, men deserve grace too. You know, I believe the Bible says that the woman is the weaker vessel. And it doesn't mean that she's not capable. It doesn't mean that she's not intelligent, but she is of the softer nature. And I believe that matters. But you can't get in a man's face or want to be combative and then pull the I'm the weaker vessel card. Again, you have to understand there's a lot of tension in life as it is. And there's a lot of tension in the world now. And sometimes you have to step back and really realize how you look, how you sound. And would you want someone to sound that way to you? You know, I have a phrase that I use quite often, and I use it because I know that it's not only helpful, but I know it's humbling. But if you can learn to be open, honest, clear, and direct, it can make a world of difference. But if you're not able to be open, honest, clear, and direct, you're looking forward to an uphill climb, a mountain worth of challenges just to be heard, to be understood. So it all goes back to things you may have heard when you were a child. And that's simply treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you can do that one thing, you might find that you have a great advantage and you'll learn that you can get a lot further ahead, a lot further along in an individual relationship or in a family dynamic. So the problem with men is that sometimes we're taken for granted, we're not really understood, and there lies a big difference. It's not an excuse. It's not an excuse for a man to not communicate. It's not an excuse for a man to do anything wrong, mess around on his partner. None of those things. No. But those things sometimes happen when the right steps are not taken in the beginning. And I don't care if you're black, white, young, or old. If you want something to be right, start off as best as you can. And remember, when you're open, honest, clear, and direct, you can get a lot further in life than you might initially realize. And with that said, any comments? I'd like to hear your comments, any suggestions, because like I said, there's so much more that can be said about this topic. And we can go so much deeper. But this is really surface level. And if you're really interested in getting to the crux of the matter, let's have a conversation. Radiate the brain and change the game, folks.